Welcome to this week's Magic Bringers Rising episode for the week of July 3rd through July 9th. Happy July, happy full moon, and find out all about how the cosmic influences and guides, guardians, angels, allies are going to help get us into soulful action this week and warming up throughout the month of July. So stay tuned for this episode. Welcome to Magic Bringers Rising Chats, a show by Super Secret Powers. I'm your host, Lindsay Baldessano, and let's get ready for a dose of energy healing, channeled guidance, and humor to keep your intuitive flow open and your roots grounded so you can lead the life of healing, spiritual purpose, and magic that you want. So, as we were talking about last week, go watch that episode. This week is also kind of full of ups and downs and some changing energy because 'tis the season of retrograde summer, at least here in the northern hemisphere. So we are in the process of having a lot of patterns being broken up. We already have two planets in retrograde. We have Saturn and Neptune. Neptune only just went retrograde on Friday, so just a few days ago. So that can bring a lot of deep stuff up. I know a couple of years ago I was going through a very Neptune kind of year. I think that was back in 2019. um, and that sinking down into the deep depths of the ocean. Um, you know, that can feel a little emo, it can feel a little angsty. It can pull all these feels out of you and your higher self that need a little exploration and time to sit with for a while. But I promise you, I'm plugging my thing in, that this month is going to sweeten up a little bit, is going to soften a little bit in some of these bigger energies. I really think that as we get toward the end of the month, when Venus and Chiron go retro, it's going to be like a very personal time, a very sweet time, a very like sacred time for you, where you get to make some different kinds of decisions for yourself. And it isn't all led by like Saturn and Neptune and all that kind of stuff. We're just, we have to get through those rough bumps of pattern breaking up first, and then things will sweeten up. But today is full moon in Capricorn, and we've got some beautiful Venus energy dancing with that adventurous Capricorn. Capricorn or Sagittarius? I think it's Sagittarius. I wrote Capricorn, but it's not. So that adventure seeking, what's next kind of energy. So, remember to also bring your heart into this. What do you want? What do you want to see? And choose those roads, perhaps instead of just roads that only bring you like instant gratification or, geez, the word fell out of my head. Anyway, anyway, Tuesday we have some Mars doing some dances. And again, that's going to be a little tempered with the Venus. So really seek out that overtone that's coming through, that soul medicine that's coming through of wise counsel and positive impact, which is really why, like this week, I really think the theme is just going to be soulful action. So, not necessarily something you would have thought of last week, or maybe you only got an inkling that it was a possibility last week because of all the things that are now breaking up and the rewiring and the restructuring that's happening, collective downward. Yeah. So, go with what feels new, go with what feels good. This isn't necessarily all about getting upset or in your anger, but don't forget, all feelings have intuitive messages, right? So we can be angry, we can receive the message from anger of what we what we're caring about in that moment, or what boundary is being triggered in a relationship. And we can write that instead of just stewing in anger. And then once we hit midweek, we have things getting a little fun again. We have the moon at its closest for this month. We have Mercury doing some fancy dancing. We have Friday being a 7-7 day, so it's an excellent day for really looking at overall progress, looking at the big picture, looking at what is that next, what is it going to take moment to get us to our first small victory. Saturday is a Master 22, and so that's a good day. It's a mastery day. It'll feel like things are moving. You can get things done. And then Sunday, Mercury is trine Neptune. So we're kind of bringing back some of that deepness again in a more productive way, because it's Mercury and it's not just, Neptune doing its thing where we all sink down to the bottom of the ocean, like, oh, I'm looking at the fish with all the teeth. No. I don't know if any of you get that, but that's where I was in 2019. But it is a week where we might have trouble keeping focus, right? And I know my friend Andrew and I were talking, and it feels like there's so much timeline shifting and so many downloads and transmissions coming through. At least here in the northern hemisphere, summer does happen to be those months, that season, where we have some of our more prominent helpers active in our skies. And I really think that does lend toward getting more transmissions, more downloads, more, I'll say quantum leaps, because everybody has some sense of that word. Even though I don't necessarily think it actually works that way. Just like that's just like the living experience interpretation of it. And we are 1 month from Lionsgate, so there's a lot of things happening. A lot of things are going to be pulling your focus one way or the other. And just stay with the soul stuff. Stay on the level of being able to identify what Venus is really trying to tell you about, what you love and what lights you up. So that you stay in a more empowered, a more enlivened, a more vitality filled state as you're moving through this. We don't have the Taurian stellium anymore that we had back in May and early June. That was really helping people set a different pace. It was really kind of just doling things out in this beautiful and nurturing way. But now it's up to us to take those lessons that, maybe there's a time around this, a timing thing around this. Maybe this has its own flow and I can't necessarily push through it. I can only take it one step at a time. Whatever that next step is, even if it doesn't seem like it's convenient or like, oh my gosh, everything's falling apart again. I almost feel like there are so many ripples going out in this universe right now, I know. I know there's a whole lot of deeper cosmological things behind that. But there are so many ripples in this here and now that everything has its own flow, and that flow is being amplified. Right, no, okay. And they're saying that, well, they have to reestablish a new flow, and that's part of what the retrogrades are doing. And that's why it seems so amplified, because it might seem a little discordant at first, because the old flow is no longer available, and we're now going into a new flow, which has to establish itself. And so it seems like, whoa, I'm caught in the wake of something. But yeah, Venus, Chiron retrograde, yeah. All that'll smooth that out. So we just have to get through another week or so before things are like, okay, I got a grip on this again. All right, so that is what I got, right? Right, by the end of the month, we'll have 4 bodies in retrograde. I read somewhere that we're going to get up to 7 again this year. So it'll be a thing, but we'll get through it. We always do. All right, but we're going to pop off to light language. But before we go there, I do want to remind everybody that I do offer one-to-one support, and I'm calling it Flow with Your Intuition sessions. And of course, you can get a package of sessions and we can work all the pricing out. It's not such a structured thing right now for me. For people who really are being hit hard, especially during these, like the retrograde stuff, and that tends to shake up a lot of foundations. So, I mean, now is a good time to start a new foundation. But if your sensitivities and your abilities are all getting triggered and you're having like this hard time getting down to the root of where you need to build this new foundation, of getting help with managing even your sensitivities and learning how to work with your empathy rather than it, just taking over your life and destroying all your boundaries, um, talk to me. You can DM me, you can email me, you can do any sort of thing, but you can also look for the link in the show notes here at the top or the bottom, depending on what channel you're on, uh, to see the details about the sessions and the packages and all that, and see if it's right for you. And, feel free to talk to me about whether it's right for you or not. I'm not like one of those people who are just going to be like, yes, everybody needs this and it's $1,000,000. Not like that. You have to be ready for the work. You have to be ready to listen on that deeper level to self. You have to be at that point where you're like, you know what? I know there's another way. Soul says there's another way. I keep getting these niggles. Like the universe is telling me I'm seeing all these signs, but I need somebody to help stabilize me. I need somebody to help help me bring that through and make it a real thing in my life, right? Because that's a thing. I mean, I've had to do that. I've had to do that when new gifts were coming through, or a different level than what I was used to, and I couldn't quite get a beat on it myself. I've done it myself. So this is something that, I know has so much intrinsic value, even if I can't say like, "Ah, it'll make your business, get $5,000 a month from here on out, because once you change your energy, you can use that energy to then do whatever it is you want in life. Once you start hearing that clarity and start being able to make it a cohesive part of your life and your energy and your being, that changes whatever it is that you want to change. All right, let's go. Let's go to light language, all about soulful action. So, welcome to the light language portion, but let me delve a little bit into why I'm theming this as soulful action. So, we're going to have some Uranus influences this next week, and we're coming into this new week on the full moon in Sag. So, all of that is really like bringing newness, bringing surprises, bringing almost like a twist as we follow our hero's journey of life. Um, but I think it's going to be a sweetened week. It's not going to be such a week of such dynamic changes like last week was, where I know a lot of sensitives were kind of feeling in and out of it. It felt like a new day every day, and it was like, where am I now? Um, I think it'll feel like it's leading somewhere this week. So if we can tap into the potentials that are around us and coming through, for these soulful actions that can arise this week, that we can be in choice with this week, I think that'll be beneficial. I think that'll stir the pot in the right way for a lot of people. And certainly the guides agree. And they're kind of laughing at me through half of this episode. And I'm like, right, yeah. I'm catching up to them as I'm talking it through for you. I'm like, okay. Gotcha. Gotcha for the summer season of surprises and retrogrades and stirrups. Yeah, I see you. I see you, tricksters. Anyway, we can never take ourselves too seriously, right? Let's just bring it back down, back. Bring our energy, our focus, our attention right down into our bellies. Do all the popping and stretching that you need to do to loosen up that diaphragm. So we're not holding everything right in here. We're just letting it sink down. Say, oh, let's go to our bellies. Yeah. Let's get down right into the bowl of our hips. That's why I'm rocking. Bowl of my hips. And so they have a message. Any newness you might be experiencing at this time has little to do with your physical form, and it is your higher self, your soul collectives coming online, coming back into awareness in this here and now. And some of the dominant consciences from these collectives might look through your eyes and see a different time, a different place from where they're used to, from what their direct memory and experience has led them to believe is quite normal. So it is a time of great soul learning. As the door to this period of soul learning is open, much integration and knowledge is passed from your physical form to the collective, and the collective back downward into your physical form. Well, the argument can be made that this is much like anchoring in new realities and potentials. Our focus and intention is more about clearing the channels between self, higher self, collective self, so that there is greater understanding and alignment and agreement on all and many levels. So your new perspective is something that is within you, something about you and whom you are connected to, and who wants to connect deeper through you. But it does not yet change the physical world around you. only the initial perception thereof, and the changing of the physical form comes through the work you do through this integration. We would like to help you be at ease with any physical sensations you might be experiencing during these times. They are not meant to be signs in and of themselves or any form of suffering or worry. We hope to help you release awareness of that so that you can focus in on simply the feeling, the ideas, and the perspective shifts that are coming through. And if it helps for those who can visualize or those who can tune in energetically, we offer the symbol of selenite during this time for this clearing. For selenite is the perfect analogy, example, model, demonstration of clear channel, of ease and alignment from just being and being in agreement and cohesiveness with its fuller self. And of course, we are not saying go out and buy selenite. You can simply visualize or look at a picture or play with somebody else's selenite whom you happen to be friends with, in cooperation with, for energetic workings. But we also offer the energy in the system, in the grid, that you can pull on at any time. And while this direct working is now finished, at least for the channel, this is something that, like I've alluded to this in last week's video, a lot of these are going to continue, a lot of these transmissions are going to continue to come throughout the month. I want to say like a week past Lionsgate even. That a lot of this energy and these downloads and these transmissions are going to be available for everybody. But please, and thank you for taking part in this. And of course, let us know what you experience, because we love hearing that. And, don't forget to look at the links for the one-to-one help and the packages that I do have available if you need it. If you'd like to come to this place where you feel integrated, aligned. All right. We love you very much. And we should be finally getting back on track with our regular programming. It was a bit of a crazy few weeks. And last night I was actually, for the first time, like, I'm 45 years old. It took me this long from, let's say, 14 to 45 to finally get initiated into a coven. I never saw myself as a coven person. I always felt like I was this lone wolf. But this year has really been about just finding my place and finding my place within people, and not just because I had my walls up still, because I wanted to be part of life again. Again? We're always part of life, but that's the lesson for me this year, at least. What's the lesson for you in 2023, the year of soul awakening? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you for Living with Intuition midweek and Magic Bringers Rising, of course, next week.